Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. Before we start off, we have a great show for you today. We will be covering Real Madrid getting the Super Cup win by defeating the likes of Atalanta. We'll do the full La Liga predictions. With the La Liga set to start tomorrow, we'll talk about the latest rounds of Osimhen speculation. Interesting developments in that realm. We'll talk about the Paul Scholes comments about Andrea Onana. This came on the annual edition of the Overlap fan debate. He had some interesting comments on Onana. And then we'll discuss some of the top headlines going on in the soccer world, as we always do. Before we start off, I'd like to say if you have a great question during the show, or if you got a question in general during the show, we want to hear it. Your input is a big part of what makes this show great, and we thrive on your energy and insights. Whether it's a quick comment, a thoughtful question, or an opinion you just have to share, don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. Now, if you want to make absolutely sure your message stands out and gets featured on the show, there's an easy way to do that. Use the super chat feature. Just click the $ at the bottom of the chat box to send in your super chat. This guarantees that your message gets on the air, and it's also a fantastic way to support our channel. We rely on your support to keep bringing you the sports content you love, and we appreciate every bit of it. So go ahead, let us know what you're thinking. Hit that super chat button, and let's keep this show as interactive and exciting as possible. And if you prefer, you can also go to gsmcpodcast.net to tip, donate, and leave a comment or question there. We couldn't do what we do without your amazing support, and we're so thankful to have you as part of our community. We have to start off with what's going on in the UEFA Super Cup final. And that is Real Madrid getting the 2-0 victory over Atalanta. Obviously, the Super Cup is the game right before the start of the season between the winners of the previous Champions League, which Real Madrid were able to do by defeating Borussia Dortmund in the final, and then Atalanta, who won Europa League last season by defeating Bayer Leverkusen 3-0 in the final with a hat trick from Ademolu Lukman. A legendary night on a legendary stage. 3 goals from him as they defeated Bayer Leverkusen and handed them their only loss of the season in all competitions. That was the one game that they were away from finishing all competitions unbeaten and winning the treble, a Europa League treble. That would have been an absolutely outstanding accomplishment. Still had an absolutely outstanding season for Leverkusen, but Atalanta was able to take that away from them. And Atalanta, they came in this game short-handed, with the Coupe Miners situation, getting the situation with Coupe Miners, with Juventus and Atalanta, with Juventus coming in for him. Juventus and Atalanta basically, having this deal done. Coupe Miners was not involved in this game, obviously, because of all that going. And then you have the likes of Scamacca, Scalavini going down with ACL injuries in preseason. It just puts you at a very poor and difficult positioning. It puts you in a very difficult spot. And Gian Piero Gasperini, he acknowledged that a few days ago, talking about how they're weak, talking about how they're not as competitive as they were before because of the issues that they faced. But overall, Mbappe, he got his first goal right away. Federico Valverde, 59th minute. Mbappe, 68th minute. And we had the first kind of look of the Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo, Jude Bellingham attacking combinations. You saw very, very fluid sort of play. You saw all players look comfortable. The attack looked fluid, interchanging. We saw Mbappe start off as the number 9. So we assume that is the position that he's gonna be operating at Real Madrid. Um, but we saw a very professional performance. Courtois making another splendid save as he is. I thought in the back, Militao and Rudiger didn't put a foot wrong. Valverde, we know the ability that he has, been at the right place at the right time as well for the goal after Vinicius Jr. was able to take advantage of that opportunity, gliding past the defender. An absolute brilliant move one-on-one that we expect. He plays in that ball. And then, same sort of, Mbappe, making, originally he made a run, originally he made a run across the box, try to get on the end of it. The ball didn't come. He drags himself back to the edge of the penalty box, finds himself a sliver of space. I forgot who was that found him on a good ball, and Mbappe is able to slice it right into the back of the net. 2-0, and it's shown, this Real Madrid team is gonna be very, very deadly. You don't win two out of the three Champions Leagues, then add Kylian Mbappe, one of the best players in the world, and not be a dominant team. And I just want to say, Real Madrid over the past few years, they've had that really good starting 11 and they've had that professional way of them. But now I'm looking at this team, you got some serious quality on the bench. Not playing. Now, Eduardo Camavinga, he got injured in training. He was still, part of the squad, part of the team. But I'm looking at the players on the bench. You got Camavinga, Endrick, Luka Modric, Brahim Diaz, Arda Güler. These are some brilliant players you have coming off the bench. So this Real Madrid team is not only loaded in terms of, quality in the starting 11, but they're starting to get that sort of depth that a team like Manchester City has benefited from over the past few years, and that makes them even more scary, and it makes them a team that can go into games even against the better teams like the Manchester Cities, the better competition in the Champions League, and be able to dominate that game in terms of, naturally Real Madrid have been a team that's been comfortable observing pressure in certain times, especially against, Manchester City, specifically. This can, with the way that they've been able to build up the squad, they can go after in games and go in and control games and dominate games against the better teams. You know what I mean? And that makes them, that added element to what they can do, makes them even more scary and makes it even more frightening. Real Madrid, they could really, we're going to do our La Liga predictions, but they have a chance to really sort of dominate. They have a chance to dominate, and yes, Madrid, this is their sixth straight Super Cup crown. They're now ahead of Barcelona and AC Milan, who have both won this trophy 5 times. But yes, Mbappe, he had a really good game. He actually had an opportunity to get the ball in the 15th minute, but to get that goal in the 15th minute, but his attempt was blocked by Atalanta's defense. A good opportunity there. Atalanta, I said yesterday that they're not going to play with fear and that they're going to go for it. And, they didn't play with the fear, They soaked up some pressure early on, and then they took advantage of certain moments, and especially in that first half, they started growing confidence. Martin de Roon had a deflected shot that hit the bar. And Atalanta, they continued to create a few chances here and there, a few shots from distance, and then a very good save by Courtois from Lukman. And Real Madrid were also able to get another very good chance also in that first half, in stoppage time, and it hit the bar. And Atalanta, they had a few opportunities here and there. They pressed. Mario Pasalic, he had that header, that amazing save from Courtois, with the with the inside hand. That's always a hard save to make. And then eventually it was a moment of magic, a moment of quality that Real Madrid have hugely benefited over the past few years. Vinicius getting past his man 1-on-1, showing the hips into one way, moving the other, plays in a low cross right into Valverde's feet. Valverde taps it home, perfect goal. And actually, Madrid also had an opportunity to double their lead very quickly after with a counter attack through Vinicius and Bellingham. He had two good opportunities that he could have taken advantage of, didn't. But then he was the one that was able to set up Mbappe for that second goal, cutting the ball back into Mbappe's path in between two defenders. It was a good ball, and then Mbappe was able to, as I said, kind of slice it. It was kind of a drag finish because his body is going one way, his momentum is going one way, but he's having to hit the ball sort of at an angle. Hits it perfectly, perfect goal, perfect moment, and it was expected. Mbappe playing his first real game at Real Madrid. First game period at Real Madrid, and it came in a competitive game in the Super Cup. I think this is the perfect moment for him to make that sort of moment. He made that moment. It came right at the right time, with being up 1-0, putting the game away, and Mbappe was able to get it done. But overall, I thought Atalanta they weren't bad. They weren't bad. Overall. And I just want to say that not front four, but Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vinicius, Bellingham, they all looked very, very, very dangerous. Jude Bellingham, have not been the biggest fan of him, but he was able to move the ball and he was able to drag on defenders and dribble past players out of ease. And Rodrigo, he was very, very lively in the right areas. He was very good. He won the ball actually in build up for the first goal. Mbappe, very, very good as he is. Vinicius Junior. Sometimes he was dropping a little bit deeper, but then in that second half he started becoming more lively in more dangerous areas. Overall, very, very good. And I thought that whole attacking display was very, very fluid, and it was a very attack minded setup. They weren't great in the first half in general, Real Madrid as a team, but they picked it up in the second half as they always do, and they were going away as UEFA Super Cup champions. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll discuss. We'll do a full La Liga prediction actually.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Before the break, we talked about Real Madrid winning the UEFA Super Cup by defeating Atalanta. We move on to do our full La Liga predictions. it's that eve, and the fact that the games technically start today, but really tomorrow. La Liga games start. The season kicks off with Athletic Club taking on Getafe, and Real Betis taking on Girona. Madrid, they open up their campaign. Madrid open up their campaign on Sunday against Mallorca. Barcelona open up their campaign against Valencia on the 17th, August 17th. Atletico Madrid, they open up their campaign against Villarreal August 19th. Some interesting ties coming up. And Girona kicks off their tie tomorrow against Real Betis. Keep in mind, Girona was the surprise of last year, being able to accomplish what they did last year. Phenomenal achievement for them. Now is a real big test for them, in the fact that they're going to be playing Champions League football. Girona, there was some issue. There was actually some talks over that, whether or not they'll be allowed to play in the Champions League or not. They were officially granted permission to compete in the Champions League about a month ago or so now. But because of the question marks regarding City's ownership group owning both Manchester City and Girona, I'm pretty sure Manchester City owners. The owners were able to find the loophole that they were able to find in every single rule book. They've invaded over 200 different charges from multiple different organizations. They just know how to do this. So, going back though, I was saying though, Girona now, they have a test in the fact that they're going to be playing Champions League football. With Champions League football, it's going to be difficult for them to be able to keep up the great sort of performances and consistency that they were able to develop last season. And Mikel, their manager, is gonna have his hands tied and in this. But going back though, speaking about La Liga last season, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Girona finished third. Atletico Madrid finished fourth. Athletic Club was fifth, and Real Sociedad was sixth, which is the 2 Europa League spots. And Real Betis is seventh. So it's interesting. Now, the newly promoted teams this season are Espanyol, Real Valladolid, Valladolid, and Leganés. Those are the for me, the favorite to win this title. My choice, my prediction to win this is definitely gonna be Real Madrid. I just spoke glowingly about that attacking four of Bellingham, Mbappe, Vinicius, Rodrigo. The way that they can play, how fluid that they are, the way that they can all, especially the front three, they can all interchange. They're all comfortable playing different positions. They all have pace and dynamism. They're all very clinical in terms of in front of goal. Huge technical quality. Just a brilliant front three and a world-class front three. That team is just purely world-class players. Mbappe, Rodrigo, Mbappe, Vinicius, Chouameni, Camavinga, Courtois, Rudiger, Militao. You're talking about just class. And now they have that added element that I was speaking about in the previous segment, is ridiculous depth with players with the quality of Brahim Diaz, Arda Güler. We saw what he's capable of doing if he can get some quality minutes. We saw what he's capable of doing at the European Championship. Just oozed quality, Arda Güler. Player like Brahim Diaz, Luka Modric came off the bench today. Again, with similar role that he had last season, he can be a brilliant player in that sort of role. Seeing out games. A player like Endrick, who has that that element of, we don't know, he's the next real big thing according to a lot of people. he has some serious quality. So this team, not only do they have ridiculous quality amongst the starting 11, but they also have the depths that they haven't quite had in years past. And that makes them even more alarming. And Carlo Ancelotti, there's no better manager out there to handle this sort of array of talent, this sort of expectations, and to make sure that there's no drop off in terms of the consistency and the mental strengths that Real Madrid have in these sort of games, in the consistency of a La Liga season, the late game stretches in the Champions League. There's no way you can't have Real Madrid winning the league. You cannot. Now, I will say, Barcelona, they will finish second. Will they compete with Real Madrid? I don't think so. In terms of winning the league, I think Real Madrid will be the clear La Liga title winners. But Barcelona, there's a unique situation here in the fact that they're going to be playing a different style of football, no matter what Hansi Flick wants to say. They're going to be playing a little bit different style of football that Barcelona has played in the past. The fact that they're gonna be managed by Hansi Flick, which is that more direct style, backline being basically at the halfway line, pressing aggressively, pressing with high intensity, pressing with some sort of desire in that you want to win the ball high and immediately attack off that pressing, off winning the ball high up the field and getting yourself into dangerous areas. That's how they would want to play. They're going to be very, very direct, very, very vertical, and very aggressive. And it's a little bit different. It's not going to be as, possession is going to be valued, obviously, but it's not going to be that sort of possession-oriented Dutch football in which your main ability to create is with your ability to control the ball and to be able to find the breakthrough. This Barcelona team with Hansi Flick, their main way to get that breakthrough is winning the ball up high up the field and being able to immediately attack off that and constantly win the ball in the opposing half of the box and being able to suffocate teams and look, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to know how Barcelona are able to take it. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Camp Nou is going to be expected to be available to them in late December of this year, but the first matches are supposed to be 60% capacity. I think if they could get that Camp Nou up to the 80, 85, 90% good atmosphere, I think it can make this even, with the way Barcelona play, that are trying to play under Hansi Flick, I think you can get that sort of Anfield-like Jurgen Klopp Liverpool presence, which the crowd would feed off of. So, I think Barcelona will be good. I don't know about the Dani Olmo signing. I think Nico Williams would have been a little bit more better. In fact, that you get that vertical sort of winger that's perfect for Hansi Flick on the left-hand side. And you're forcing to play, Frenkie de Jong in a sort of unnatural position with bringing in Dani Olmo if you're going to try to make a fit. So, but overall, I think Barcelona, they'll be very, very solid. I'd have to go with Atletico Madrid third. I think being able to sign a guy like Julian Alvarez completely changed the deal for Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. I think it makes them dangerous. I think getting a guy like Conor Gallagher in the club would have been very beneficial. But we know that deal is kind of teetering right now with the whole situation of Samu Omorodion not being able to get sold to Chelsea. But I think Atletico Madrid getting a player like Julian Alvarez, a world-class sort of player, I think they're going to have some sort of consistency with him. And I think that would be enough to keep them third. I think they'll be a very, very solid team. They do need that upgrade in midfield, though. And then I'd have to go probably with Athletic Club, Sociedad, Villarreal. I think they're all contenders to get that first spot. Obviously, Girona as well. The thing that makes me worry about Girona just a bit is the fact that now that they're going to be playing Champions League football, that it's going to be difficult to play Champions League football and to play Champions League football and compete in La Liga in top four. I think if they weren't playing Champions League football, I'd fancy them right now. But I'm slightly leaning Athletic Club, who are able to retain the likes of Nico Williams, which I think makes them more dangerous. Last year they finished on around 68 points. I think that they'll be able to progress from there. I like what they're doing at the football club. There seems to be a good camaraderie. Ernesto Valverde, I think, since he's came in at Atletico Madrid, at Atletico Bilbao the second time around, I think they've made steady progression year by year, and I think this could be the year that they can break into the top four. So I'm gonna put them just because I don't know how Girona can adapt to playing Champions League football with competing in La Liga. And the big thing with Girona, they lost Dovbyk to Roma. Dovbyk had 24 goals and 36 appearances in this campaign. They lost him to Roma. Now, yes, they'll be able to use that money to, improve the squad. But when you're losing a guy that scored 24 goals for you, that's a big loss. So I'm going to have to go with Athletic Club. I think there'll be a drop-off from Girona. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to the latest rounds of Osimhen speculation.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Before the break, we did full La Liga predictions. We're moving on to talk about some of the latest rounds of Osimhen speculation. I say latest rounds. It seems like at this point, it's just new boxing rounds in terms of Osimhen speculation. Here this, now this, now this, now this, now this. Now we heard a new round. We have two pieces of news. It seems like Chelsea, every time you think that, they're slipping away, now it seems like there's more talks between the clubs, with Lukaku being involved and all that. There was also another report that came out, actually fairly even more recent than that, and it's the fact that apparently, according to sources, Napoli Osimhen wants the move to PSG instead of Chelsea. That's interesting there. Now, as far as the first bit of news was Osimhen, the Chelsea speculation. It seems like there's Napoli and Chelsea are back in talks, because Napoli seriously wants Romelu Lukaku. It seems like Antonio Conte seriously wants Romelu Lukaku, but there's reported that Romelu Lukaku, the Chelsea, want a transfer value of around 40 million for Lukaku, and let's be honest, there's no way in hell they're getting that sort of money for a player like Lukaku, who Chelsea have basically let the whole world know they don't want nothing to do with him. They don't, Chelsea have no leverage. Romelu Lukaku, he's not even involved with Chelsea right now. He's not in the preseason. He hasn't appeared in any of the games. He's not in the squad. He's not nowhere near the team. He has been nowhere near, he's probably not even in London. He's nowhere with the team. He's out probably training on his own, getting ready for this next season on his own, just waiting for the agents and all that to get this next deal done. It's very, very clear that Chelsea don't see nothing with Lukaku. And Lukaku probably sees nothing with Chelsea as well. Doesn't want anything to do with them. And Lukaku is just trying to get this next deal done, whatever it is, as fast as possible so he can go to the next team. So to think, Chelsea, that they're able to get 40 million or so from him is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. Now, Osimhen, I think, is the right next signing for Chelsea. And should have been the signing about 6, 7, 8, 9 signings ago. I'm sick and tired of signing 3, 4. Thankfully the Samo Oromodion did not go. Somo Omorodion deal did not go through. Striker that has no sort of we don't know nothing about. Very similar signing to Nicholas Jackson. You're signing Nicholas Jackson. You're signing Omorodion. You're signing all these sort of players at that number 9 position that are guys. But you could take the value of all of them and just get that one world-class striker. And Lukaku, they're doing the same thing. I think Chelsea currently have 5 goalkeepers right now at the club, with Sanchez, Petrovic, Philip Bjornsson, and it goes on and on. Like, why are you signing all these sort of goalkeepers for 10, 15, 20 millions or so, when you could go out and just, combine all those 5 and or combine like 3 or 4 of those and get a guy like Mike Mignon? Why, mix and match at a goalkeeper and center forward when you could just be getting the world-class goalkeeper in Mike Mignon, or another goalkeeper if Mike Mignon doesn't want to go to Chelsea or that deal just can't go through, or another world-class goalkeeper or very good goalkeeper and sign a world-class striker. I don't understand this sort of thing that's going on in Chelsea. And now Chelsea are, negotiating for João Felix because they want to be able to send Conor Gallagher the other way. And that's also another interesting move in the fact that I don't think Chelsea went out of their way to get trying to get João Felix. I think Atletico Madrid, I think Chelsea are doing it just so they could get the Conor Gallagher deal signing off, which is weird for me, and it's just unbelievable. And Chelsea, they've been a very poor run club, and now Victor Osimhen, there's rumors that he's eyeing, despite the interest that is heavily coming from Chelsea. He would prefer a move to PSG. Now this is a one reporter that reported this, one reporter in from Sky Sports Germany. So we don't know for sure. This is just sources say. But yes, Osimhen, he attracted so much attention from clubs around Europe. Arsenal has been involved with, has paid attention. We know Chelsea. Now the deal with PSG is, look, PSG, they can remain Osimhen's. They can remain Osimhen's, sort of dream club that he wants to move to this summer. But PSG, its sources say PSG cannot move any sort of direction with a potential deal when it's regards to Victor Osimhen, if they still have Randal Colomwani and Gonzalo Ramos at the club. They cannot make that move for Osimhen. They can't make that move happen financially, and it's and yes, Gonzalo Ramos, he has been linked with the move to Atletico Madrid in the past, which is now very unlikely in the fact that they were able to sign Julian Alvarez. Colomwani, he was able to get some attention as well from Borussia Dortmund earlier this window, but none of these was real sort of, any close to materializing. No real potential in those real deals. It was just rumors, and it was just gossip at the end of the day. But Osimhen, he can eye that move to PSG. Maybe the fact that PSG see this sort of headline, see that Osimhen wants to make this sort of move, can maybe increases their level of aggressiveness in trying to sell off these 2 players so they can get or trying to sell off any of these 2 players so that they can get Osimhen maybe a change of mindset is amongst the PSG board to be able to sign Victor Osimhen, because they do have that hole in terms of world-class player in that sort of attacking display. With the fact that they've lost Mbappe, there's a real hole in PSG in terms of real world-class talent on the attacking end of the pitch. There's a lot of goals that went away when Mbappe goes, and I think you can do a good job of replacing that if you can get a player like Victor Osimhen, if you can clear up the space to get him and be able to negotiate that deal with Napoli. That's going to be very interesting. Now, if that's the case and he, that's the move he wants to make, then it's very unfortunate. If I'm a real football fan and I'm seeing how Chelsea have been operating in terms of transfers, in terms of just from the outside looking and seeing how this group Chelsea, I don't think there'll be much sort of players that really want to fancy that move to Chelsea. Besides the fact that the money talks, and I think a guy like Victor Osimhen, he knows, with the quality that he has, he knows, the money's going to follow him no matter where he goes. He's going to be one of the best paid players in the world, no matter at what club he is. That's the sort of quality he has. And I believe Chelsea has had to overpay some of these players to be able to get them at the club. And, maybe it's literally impossible for them to overpay for a guy like Victor Osimhen, because I think there's going to be plenty of clubs that are going to offer him very, very good deals. So I think it puts Chelsea there at a jeopardized situation as well. And look, if they can't make the signing like Osimhen, I think Chelsea are heading into another sort of miserable season, and the season that might not have last long for our manager right now, Enzo Maresca. That's really how I see it. And Chelsea, they're in big trouble, big trouble. I've never been less excited for a season, less optimistic. I've never been as pessimistic as I am entering the season as I am about Chelsea now. And it's very disappointing, but at the same time, life moves on, right? Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll talk about Andre Onana.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Before the break, we talked about the latest round of Osimhen speculation. We move on to talk about Paul Scholes. He had some comments on Andre Onana, and we discuss on whether or not he will be a problem for Manchester United, Andre Onana. But let's go quickly to Paul Scholes' comments on Onana. Let's open them up real here, because I don't want to misquote anything he said. Obviously, I want to read his quote word by word. But obviously, it was something that was a little bit negative in regards to Onana, and he voiced his opinion. The overlap fan debate is a great show, and it's fantastic to watch. Being able for these sort of players, these legends, to debate fans and to talk fans and give fans the voice that they deserve. I love seeing it. I love seeing that. I love watching that show. It's one of the things I look forward to a lot. Um, so, but speaking on the overlap, Paul Scholes, Man United legend, said, "I've heard a lot of Manchester United fans say how excited they are for the new season. I'm struggling with that. I still think there are areas of the pitch which are a problem for United. The new centre backs, Lenny Yoro has already got. Speaking about Lenny Yoro, has already got injured. Martinez was injured last season. Maguire was injured at the end of the season. Lindelof the same. No Varane this season. I still worry about the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper is a big concern for me. Even in preseason with some of the goals he conceded, I worry to death about him. And, I have to say, there's a... That's for me. I don't think that's unfair. What we've seen from Andre Onana in that first season, I think what we saw from Onana first season, there's a right to be concerned. He was terrible. Some of the mistakes were dumbfounding. Some of the mistakes that he made, it was just unbelievable to think about. So, some of the issues that Man United were presented with Onana. These saves, these routine saves, even sometimes the easy saves, he was making it look a lot more difficult than what it was. It was just a terrible, terrible, terrible season for Andre Onana, compounded with a terrible, terrible, terrible season from United. Just too many, big time mistakes, especially in the Champions League. Just horrible, horrible mistakes that a player, not even a fan, but I'm talking like someone who's just watching the game, a casual, watching the game of football, game of soccer, can see, oh, the player in between the posts there should have done better. The player in the yellow, the goalkeeper, the goalie should have done better. Some of the saves have been horrendous that he's allowed in, and he does not give much confidence to the back four, just based on what we've saw last season. Now, he did have a brilliant season at Inter Milan, and getting them into where he was, getting them into, top four, not top four, into the Champions League final, being part of that team. But, it's for Manchester United. It's about what you do for Manchester United. And what he's done at Manchester United so far, he's had a terrible season. And also with Andre Onana, his main gift is playing out of the back, right? And he can do that very, very well. But if you're not a decent shot stopper, all that goes out the window. David De Gea, the seasons he had for Manchester United, he spoiled Manchester United. And early on his career, obviously it did drop off in the later years. But during the main stage of career, David De Gea was lights out, game in, game out. He was impossible to stop. If you got a goal past United, you would have been proud of yourself. That's how dominant David De Gea was in terms of his shot stopping. Andre Onana is nowhere near that. He does not provide the confidence to the back line that a goalkeeper like David De Gea provided for Manchester United. So, yeah, I think Paul Scholes does have a right to be hugely, hugely concerned, especially in the fact that how he said, the center backs, Lenny Yoro has already gone down. There's been major sort of injury not crisis, but woes already that United are suffering, especially in that center half position. In the fact that they've lost Varane, they did bring in Matthias de Ligt, but in the fact that they lost Varane. Now, I don't know how much this makes a difference in terms of Onana and his shot stopping, but he does have someone he's familiar with now playing in front of him with Matthias de Ligt coming in. I think he's going to play a lot of the games as that center half for Manchester United. Can that make it a little bit more comfortable? Maybe that increases the sort of, the sort of fluidity and sort of, and sort of chemistry amongst the back five, which when I say back five, I mean the back four and goalkeeper, having a familiar player in there, getting a year more familiar with the likes of Lissandro and Dalot and Luke Shaw, despite the fact that he didn't even get to play that much with Luke Shaw and Alessandro. But I don't know. Look, he did struggle massively in his first season. But I do see some of his. The one positive thing is I do see his interviews, especially that he had later on the season with Sky Sports with Gary Neville, and he seems a player that oozes. And despite the the horrible season he was having, he oozes confidence and he oozes bravery. And for me, from the mental side of it, watching that sort of interview, watching his answers, watching his body language, his tone and everything, he seems like a player that doesn't get bothered too much about the mistakes that he's making and is able to bounce back and can bounce back and have a great season after last season. I think mentality wise, I do think he has a good mentality. I don't think this is something that's gonna carry on to him mentally for too long. I don't think this is something that's gonna break him mentally. I don't think the pressure is gonna get to him sort of a similar way that it got to Harry Maguire over the past few years or so, the heavy criticism. I think Andre Onana will be able to mentally get past all those sort of issues and will be able to get back if there is a dominant form of him at Manchester United. I think he'll be able to find it, because I don't think this is a player that's gonna just lose all his confidence and be mentally broken. The interview I saw, I was very, very impressed with his sort of confidence, with the bravery, with his ability to not only just to answer the questions, but his the accountability and realizing that everyone everyone makes mistakes and he'll bounce back he'll bounce back. He also talked about Marcus Rashford. I thought the interview should give United fans a little bit more confidence with him. I know Rio Ferdinand, he happens to be Mr. Positive when it comes to Manchester United, and all the time, and England, whenever it's like that sort of season, he's always Mr. Positive. He's always crazy unobjective and crazy not objective and crazy biased toward his clubs, but he still does have an opinion, and I will acknowledge it. And during on social media, on Twitter, during the Q&A, Rio Ferdinand, he did come out and say some sort of defense for Andre Onana. He said, "I think Onana can be the right one for us. It was a difficult season last season. Conceding a lot of goals, not just him, but as a team. But I think he has to have defenders that are willing to receive the ball. And that's when, I'm going to cut off the quote mid there. That's when a guy like Matthias de Ligt, his ability to play with the ball, and the fact that he also has chemistry with Andre Onana. They were together when the Ajax made that run into that semifinals of the Champions League under the likes of Erik ten Hag. But going back to the main point, going back to the quote, but I think he has to have defenders that are willing to receive the ball, that want to receive the ball, that get into the right positions to receive the ball, in positions but also body shape facing the right way to receive the ball. If they do that, then we have a chance to really play out and become a better team than we're playing out, especially from restarts. So yeah, he can be, but I think other things have to work in order for him to be the best player that he can be. The goalkeeper that I saw at Ajax and Inter Milan, I think he does have, that sort of ability. But at the end of the day, he's talking about players wanting to receive the ball and all that. But that doesn't, again, that doesn't have anything to do with the mistakes when it comes to shot stopping, though. Some of the ridiculous set pieces that he looks horrible in, his lack of presence, it doesn't account for that. That's still a major issue as well, guys. And it's crazy to me that Rio Ferdinand wants to just ignore it and just talk about everything else that doesn't kind of matter. But that's always what Ferdinand been in his career in terms of punditry. So, he happens to be a crazy biased pundit when it comes to some of the former clubs or some of the teams he played for, specifically talk about Manchester United in England. Short break here coming up. When we come back, we'll react to some of the top soccer headlines. before the break. We talked about Paul Scholes' comments about Andre Onana and whether or not he will be a problem for Manchester United this season. We move on to talk about some of the top soccer headlines going on in the soccer world, and we will start off with Mikel Merino. Real Sociedad and Arsenal are in talks, are still working on a deal after their initial bid was rejected by Real Sociedad. Arsenal are in talks. Mikel Merino, he was part of Spain's European Championship team. The 28-year-old is wants the move to happen. He's keen on the move. As they say in Britain, with Mikel Merino, he only has a year left on his Sociedad contract, which does make this deal a little bit easier for Arsenal. And is agreement on personal terms is not to be a problem. It's just whether or not Real Sociedad and Arsenal they could agree on a deal. I think Mikel Merino, he could be a good sort of balance in terms of playing alongside Declan Rice and Odegaard. I think he does a little bit of, he's number one, he's 6'2", so he has that physical nature to him, and he can be part of a team that can control possession. He's very good on the ball, as most Spanish players are. He also has that ability to be a threat on set pieces. He got the goal against Germany on a game-winning goal following a late run into the box. Which is what Merino is very efficient as. He does make good late runs into the box, and he gets on the end of things because of the height. I think Mikel Merino, he could be a great sort of addition for Arsenal. He's he's first in duels won, which he can give you that defensive presence that Declan Rice is a little bit weak at. He's 7th in terms of tackles. He's 2nd in La Liga in terms of aerial battles won. He's very good in terms of winning the ball in the midfield. He's 5th, so he provides that sort of ability. And yeah, he could be a very, very good player for Arsenal. I think he fits well alongside Declan Rice and Odegaard. He's also not going to be crazy expensive in the fact that he's not a 19-year-old. He's a 28-year-old player. He's 1 year left on his deal, so you could get him at some sort of deal if you're Arsenal. So yeah, I think he could be a great player, a great addition for Arsenal. Manchester City's Oscar Bob has broken a bone in his leg before this upcoming season, and he's set to miss the start of the season after suffering the bone break in the leg. He suffered this injury during training on Wednesday. He was trying to turn. There was no other player involved. It was kind of a non-contract injury. He's going to undergo further assessments before they make a decision on what is needed for his rehab. He's not going to need surgery in the fact that it's a bone injury. More likely than not, he's going to miss some of City's opening Premier League games. And, it is actually a blow for Manchester City in the fact that he was really good during preseason, during the Community Shield as well. He actually helped set up the equalizer for Bernardo Silva as well. So I think with now Julian Alvarez also not being involved, it does make them a little bit more weaker in terms of attacking position. And Oscar Bob, he's actually been play a little bit more of a bigger role for Manchester City after the sort of development that he's shown over this past season and the summer. So it's bad news for Manchester City, but not life-changing news. And they've managed worse injuries than Oscar Bob. But I still think Oscar Bob is a good player. Now this is a little bit more of a serious note. The father of Lamine Yamal, 17-year-old Lamine Yamal, he's been hospitalized after being stabbed in a parking lot near Barcelona. According to multiple reports in Spain, there's been a few arrests that happened with Spanish sources or Spanish investigators investigating this, and it's a terrible story. He's considered in stable but critical condition. We all hope and pray for the best for Lamine Yamal and his family and his father, of course, especially. And we all hope that everything goes well. It's really a suffering situation. Lamine Yamal's father, he's been involved extremely, been at a lot of his games, heavily influencing Lamine Yamal. We've heard the stories, and it's just sort of devastating. This sort of thing happening. We just hope the criminals are to pay for their actions, and we hope everything the best for Lamine Yamal, his family, his father, of course. So, from GSMC, from the GSMC network, we send our well wishes to the entire family. Wojciech Szczesny, I always mess up his name. Szczesny has left Juventus after they've reached a mutual agreement to terminate the contract. Juventus announced this on Wednesday. He spent 7 very, very good years at Juventus and had 1 year left on his contract. But with Thiago Motta coming in, and Juventus, they're kind of pushing out as a group of players. One of those players happened to be Weston McKennie as well. But Wojciech Szczesny, he's able to leave. He's gonna be leaving on mutual agreement, and now he's linked with some Saudi Pro League teams like Al Nassr, also Serie A club Monza. So Szczesny is gonna be interesting to see his next move, and he had a pretty good European Championship as well. So we'll see. Marco Reus, ex-Borussia Dortmund star, is going to be signing with LA Galaxy. They're going to be able to sign the 3-time Bundesliga Player of the Year, Marco Reus, the 35-year-old. He was out of contract this summer, and he announced that he was leaving Borussia Dortmund. He played his final game in the Champions League final against Real Madrid. But now Marco Reus, he's gonna be playing in La Liga. In LA Galaxy, for a pretty good team. They're a title contender this season. He joins the likes of players like Gabriel Peck, Joseph Penstil, Dejan Jovelic, and Ricky Pio. Galaxy, they can have a good attacking, set of players, set of talent, and we'll see if that sort of, they can make the next move in terms of competing. Chicago Fire and Xherdan Shaqiri have agreed to a contract termination after a pretty disappointing spell for Xherdan Shaqiri at Chicago Fire. The Chicago Fire, they announced this on Wednesday. Shaqiri, he joined the Chicago Fire from Lyon in 2022. It was a record fee of $7.5 million, and he was the top earner in the MLS with $8.15 million at the time. Since then, he's been beaten by Messi, Busquets, and Lorenzo Insigne. But yes, they have Chicago Fire and Xherdan Shaqiri have both mutually agreed to this sort of termination. It wasn't right for Shaqiri. He said, "I believe this is the right time for me to explore new opportunities in my career. I want to thank the club and fans for their support during my time in Chicago. I wish the Fire nothing but success moving forward." That's the end. That's all we got for y'all today. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the GSMC Soccer Podcast presented by the GSMC Sport Network. Your support means a lot to us. So please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. So thank you guys once again, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be